Today, we're diving into a profound and sometimes unsettling topic, existential anxiety, or angst, as explored by two towering figures in existential philosophy, Søren Kierkegaard and Martin Heidegger. Now, before we jump in, let's set the scene. Imagine you're going about your day, just doing your usual routine, when all of a sudden, you're hit by a wave of anxiety. You can't pinpoint exactly why, but it feels as if you're teetering on the edge of a vast emptiness. You start questioning the meaning of it all, maybe even doubting if any of this has any purpose. That's existential angst. Both Kierkegaard and Heidegger saw this anxiety as more than just a fleeting feeling. For them, it was a central experience that reveals the deeper truths about who we are and how we exist in the world. So let's unpack how each of them understood this powerful emotion. Let's start with Søren Kierkegaard, the 19th century Danish philosopher often hailed as the father of existentialism. Kierkegaard's concept of angst is intimately tied to the idea of freedom. But it's not the kind of freedom we often think about, the freedom to choose what we want for lunch or where we want to travel. No, for Kierkegaard, angst is the anxiety that arises from the realization of our ultimate freedom, the freedom to define ourselves, to make choices that matter deeply, and to determine the course of our lives. In his view, this freedom is so profound that it can be terrifying. He describes angst as the dizziness of freedom. It's that feeling you get when you realize that, despite all the social norms and expectations, you alone are responsible for who you become. You're free, but you're also standing on the edge of an abyss of endless possibilities, where each choice is filled with uncertainty and the weight of responsibility. Kierkegaard gives us the example of a person standing on the edge of a cliff. They might feel a strange urge to jump, not because they want to, but because they realize they could. That vertigo, that sense of possibility combined with dread, is angst. It's the anxiety of knowing that you could, at any moment, make a life-altering decision. It's the anxiety of realizing that you're free to become anything, and that realization can be as terrifying as it is liberating. To Kierkegaard, though, angst isn't something to avoid. It's actually a crucial experience because it's through facing this anxiety that we begin to confront who we truly are. It's a wake-up call that pushes us to live more authentically, to move beyond the superficial roles society gives us, and to take charge of our own lives. Now, let's shift gears to Martin Heidegger, the 20th century German philosopher who took Kierkegaard's ideas and expanded them in new directions. Heidegger's concept of angst is slightly different. For Heidegger, anxiety is not so much about the freedom to choose, but about the realization of our own mortality and the nature of being itself. Heidegger believes that, most of the time, we're absorbed in the everyday world, occupied by our tasks, jobs, and routines. He calls this mode of existence the they-self, where we live according to the expectations of others. But every now and then, we experience a profound sense of anxiety that pulls us out of this they-self mode. This anxiety is different from fear, because it has no specific object. It's not about being anxious about something, it's an anxiety about nothingness itself. It's the feeling of being confronted with the groundlessness of our own existence. In these moments, Heidegger argues, we face the truth that we are finite beings, that we will die, and that all the distractions and routines we use to avoid thinking about it are just that, distractions. This confrontation with anxiety reveals that there is no inherent meaning or purpose given to us from the outside. It's a moment of awakening where we realize that we are ultimately alone with our choices, and that our lives are fundamentally uncertain. However, just like Kierkegaard, Heidegger sees this anxiety as an opportunity. When we confront this anxiety, we can break free from the they-self and begin to live authentically. It's an invitation to embrace our own unique way of being, to live in accordance with our own values, and to accept that our existence is a project we have to take up on our own. So, what do these two perspectives on anxiety teach us? Essentially, Kierkegaard and Heidegger both see angst as a force that pushes us to confront the truth of our existence. Whether it's Kierkegaard's realization of radical freedom or Heidegger's awakening to our finite nature, existential anxiety forces us to reckon with the fact that we are responsible for our own lives. It's an unsettling but potentially transformative experience. Let's make this a bit more concrete with an example. Imagine a person, let's call her Sarah. Sarah has spent her whole life following a predetermined path. She studied hard, got a stable job, and followed what society told her would lead to happiness. But one day, she wakes up with an intense feeling of anxiety. It's not a specific fear about her job or her health. It's a deeper, more unsettling feeling that her life lacks real meaning. At first, she tries to ignore it. She throws herself into work, picks up new hobbies, even distracts herself with social media. But nothing seems to help. Eventually, she realizes that this anxiety isn't going away. It's calling her to look at her life more closely. Sarah begins to question whether the path she's on is really what she wants. She realizes that she's been living according to other people's expectations, not her own. Over time, this confrontation with anxiety leads Sarah to make some big changes. She decides to leave her job and pursue a career that aligns more with her passions. She takes time to explore her own beliefs and values and starts making choices that feel true to her. In short, by facing her anxiety, Sarah begins to live a more authentic life. So to wrap things up, both Kierkegaard and Heidegger show us that existential anxiety, while unsettling, is a necessary experience that reveals the truth about our human condition. It confronts us with the void, the realization that we are radically free, that we are finite, and that our lives lack any preordained meaning. Yet this confrontation isn't a curse, it's an invitation. It invites us to take ownership of our lives, to live authentically, and to embrace the uncertainty that comes with being human. While it might be uncomfortable, existential anxiety is a doorway to a more genuine way of living. So next time you feel that wave of existential angst, remember, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to look deeper, to question, and perhaps to change your life in ways that bring you closer to your true self. Thank you for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations into the depths of philosophy. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.